Why do fruitcakes last so long? Fruitcake is a shelf-stable food unlike any other. One Ohio family has kept the same fruitcake uneaten, except for periodic taste tests, since it was baked in 1878. In Antarctica, a century-old fruitcake discovered in artifacts left by explorer Robert Falcon Scott's 1910 expedition remains almost edible, according to the researchers who found it. So what is it that makes fruitcake so freakishly hearty? It comes down to the ingredients. Fruitcake is notoriously dense. Unlike almost any other cake, it's packed chock full of already preserved foods like dried and candied nuts and fruit. All those dry ingredients don't give microorganisms enough moisture to reproduce. As Ben Chapman, a food safety specialist at North Carolina State University, explained in 2014, that keeps bacteria from developing on the cake. Oh, and the booze helps. A good fruitcake involves plenty of alcohol to help it stay shelf-stable for years on end. Immediately after a fruitcake cools, most bakers will wrap it in a cheesecloth soaked in liquor and store it in an airtight container. This keeps mold and yeast from developing on the surface. It also keeps the cake deliciously moist. In fact, fruitcakes aren't just capable of surviving unspoiled for months on end. Some people contend they're better that way. Fruitcake fans swear by the aging process, letting their cakes sit for months or even years at a stretch. Like what happens to a wine with age, this allows the tannins in the fruit to mellow, according to the Wisconsin bakery Swiss Colony, which has been selling fruitcakes since the 1960s. As it ages, it becomes even more flavorful, bringing out complex notes that a young fruitcake, or wine, lacks. If you want your fruitcake to age gracefully, you'll have to give it a little more hooch every once in a while. If you're keeping it on the counter in advance of a holiday feast a few weeks away, the King Arthur Flour Company recommends unwrapping it and brushing it with whatever alcohol you've chosen. Brandy and rum are popular choices every few days. This is called feeding the cake, and should happen every week or so. The aging process is built into our traditions around fruitcakes. In Great Britain, one wedding tradition calls for the bride and groom to save the top tier of a three-tier fruitcake to eat until the christening of the couple's first child, presumably at least a year later, if not more. Though true fruitcake aficionados argue over exactly how long you should be marinating your fruitcake in the fridge, the Spruce says that it's generally recommended that soaked fruitcake should be consumed within 2 years, which isn't to say that the cake couldn't last longer, as our century-old Antarctic fruitcake proves. Honestly, it would probably taste okay if you let it sit in brandy for a few days.